When a child is born in Nevada, there are a few different ways that a father can be determined to be the father legally of that child. Now, when two parties are married, a man and a wife are married, the woman has a baby, and there's a husband who's a man, there's a presumption that that man is the father of that child. And at the hospital, generally, they just put his name on the birth certificate, and that's it. That's sufficient for paternity to have been established for that child. In situations where the parties are not married, but everyone agrees this is the mother, this is the father, there's no other possible father to this child, they can sign what's called a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, or an affidavit of paternity. And that is a declaration that both the mom and the dad sign, saying, yes, he's the father and he's the only possible father. And this results in an actual determination that that man is the father of the child. Now, if a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity is done and he is not the only possible father, there is another possible father, and certainly if it turns out that there actually is a different father through the paternity testing that's subsequently done, that voluntary acknowledgement of paternity can be set aside and must be set aside by the courts. And even for a child that can be, much older, not even, right after birth, they can set aside that voluntary acknowledgement of paternity and establish paternity for the actual biological father of a child. It used to be that our courts would look, if a child was more than 3 years old and had already known one man to be his father, that they would really look at that and were hesitant to affirm the rights of a biological father after that. But a recent case where I represented a biological father going in to assert his paternity rights has resulted in law for all of Nevada that allows for those biological paternity rights to be absolute, regardless of how long it takes to get to court or find out that that's your child. And so while the voluntary acknowledgement of paternity establishes paternity, it certainly can be set aside if it's fraudulent. Now, another mechanism to get paternity determined is through the filing of a court case and obtaining an order, a decree of paternity, or an order that establishes paternity. And this is done through filing in the district court or the family court to get that determination. And the number one thing they look at in that situation is DNA testing. We do have other things that can come into consideration in a paternity determination. If DNA isn't the end all be all for that determination, they can look at, if there was somebody who was living with the mother of the child and has held the child out to be their own. There's a bunch of other factors. But in a day where we have DNA testing that's pretty conclusive, those don't come into play as much as they used to back in the day. But it's very important to make sure, if you're the father of a child, that you have your paternity established through one of these mechanisms, and that it's confirmed, because your custody rights, while you can still get it confirmed and get custody rights in the future, you don't really have any rights until that paternity has been established through one of these mechanisms.